7 o'clock. We'll call this meeting to order. All selectmen are present. We'll start by transmitting warrants. Treasury warrants 7, 7A, 8, 8A, 9, 9A, 9B, 10, and 10A.
Move the warrants is read by the chairman.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor? Unanimous? We have no meeting minutes to approve. So we'll start with our 7 o'clock appointment with James Castellano, Lily's Corner Store, doing business as Castellano's Corner Store. Request to obtain a common victualer's license for property located at 296 Shawsheen Street, Suite 1. How you doing?
Good evening, gentlemen.
Aye.
You can go ahead and start.
I'm here to obtain the common victualer's license for 9 seats in my store.
Okay, and we have recommendations.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Board of Health has indicated that they recommend approval. There's no objection. The building inspector has reviewed the application, and there are no outstanding zoning issues. The Director of Planning and Conservation has indicated that the property received amended site plan approval for inclusion of a limited services restaurant from the Planning Board at its May 4th, 2010 meeting. The number of parking spaces provided allows a maximum of 9 seats for any restaurant use at this address. It is the Director's understanding that Greg's Roast Beef also at this address has no seating. So as long as the seating provided does not exceed the maximum allowed, the Planning Department recommends approval of the issuance of a common victualer's license. Maybe we need to get clarified based upon the plans where the seating is. Is it, I'm sure Mr. Castellano can
Yes,
let the board
you
know.
stated 9 seats. It's
9
in-
seats only.
In your,
In my store
your
only.
store.
We have a dry cleaner, a dance studio takes 2 spaces, and Greg's Roast Beef. My store is the only one that has handicap restrooms that would allow public seating.
okay.
So Greg says no request or no desire to have seating. He wants to continue the fast food situation he's in.
Okay. Any questions, comments, or motion from the board?
I move to grant the request, specifically limiting the number of seats to 9.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? It's unanimous? Good luck.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
This isn't a public meeting of 7:10, right? We can go.
No, I think we can go.
Yeah.
Objection.
Okay. We're going to go ahead now with our 7:10 appointment with Superintendent of Schools Joanne Benton and George Hooper, Superintendent of Public Buildings Department. Participation in MSBA Green Repair Program in conjunction with the window replacement project at the Shawsheen Elementary School.
Good evening.
Superintendent?
Good evening.
How you doing?
On August 11th, I had received an email from the Massachusetts School Building Authority about a Green Fund grant for public schools in Massachusetts. This grant was to support the replacement of roofs, windows, and boilers in school facilities that will remain public schools and have a long record of good maintenance. And the need for the repairs of the windows is not the result of neglect or lack of routine capital maintenance, but a routine replacement. Because the town meeting, you and the town meeting had approved the windows for Shawsheen, I investigated further in talking to MSBA if we would qualify, and they said to submit a grant. Spoke with the town manager, and he supported it, and I have before you a statement of interest that I wrote this summer. I believe you have copies of it. I have extra copies. In order to, if we qualify and receive the grant, we would be reimbursed approximately 45 to 48% of the cost, which I believe were estimated at around $715,000.
Correct.
So it would help Wilmington out. And the applications are due on, it's a short turnaround, September 22nd, and will be reviewed on a rolling basis, and we'll have the results hear the results shortly if you approve it this evening. So I'm here to ask for your approval of the statement of interest.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, just to follow up from a financial point of view, if we, do get the grant, and we receive maybe approximately $350,000 or whatever that final number is, those funds can then be transferred by town meeting to a like purpose meaning something that would be a capital project. So it really leverages those funds. The superintendent has done a good job in putting this together. We've been working on this now for a little while, and I would strongly recommend that we go forward. The beauty of this is we already have our appropriation. So normally we would have to, and we might have been in a situation where we would have had to make an appropriation, and the project is already moving forward into the design phase. So, this is a real win-win for the town. And Mr. Hooper also is here in the event the board has any specific questions about the construction that's going to be done, and the board might also be interested in knowing what work was done this summer in the schools in terms of the facility improvements with regard to the Woburn Street School flooring project, and also the two life safety projects at the Shawshene School and the Wildwood School.
Yeah, I was going to ask Mr. Hooper to give us an outline on that, because just that floor project alone, I think, went pretty well this summer, and it was
It's quite a job,
quite the
quite an
project, yeah.
Yeah, and of course, with the help from the school department, we were able to pull that off. We removed over 30,000 square feet of asbestos floor tile, which is no longer in the building. It's gone. We put in brand-new floors in cove base throughout the school. And like you had stated, we did it at the end of the school year and had the school ready for opening with no delay. And I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but it came out beautiful. Nice job. So we'll no longer have to deal with the asbestos flooring in that particular school again. Right. That maintenance factor has just been taken away. Two of the other projects that we have is the Wildwood life safety system that's in there. Great system. That's all completed. I believe they just had their first fire drill the other day. And the new systems are unique, especially for our young residents over at the school. They're not the siren, the loud blast, so it doesn't startle the kids and put them into a panic mode. It's more of their little strobe light goes off, and then a woman's voice comes over the speaker and tells them that an emergency has been reported to the office. Please exit the building according, in according fashion, and it's a great system, so it's an asset to the town, and which we're also doing at the Shawshene School. Also, the secretary can utilize this system. Now that the PAs, the strobes, and the system's completed, they can actually address the entire school from bathrooms to hallways to classrooms with one microphone. So it was quite a system.
I would just add that one of the things George mentioned was the cooperation from the school department. It really is a unique relationship that's working out quite well, and I noticed there are at least two members of the school committee and a former member of the school committee that is here, and I think that we're able to get some of these things done because of the strong level of cooperation, the good relationship that extends throughout the municipal and school department. So that's credit certainly to Joanne and her leadership and the work that George has been doing.
Can I just add that in my 7 years here, it was the smoothest school opening. I'd like to acknowledge the Department of Public Buildings and also Department of Public Works. Everything was done way ahead of time, lines in parking lots, any roof repairs. We really, the three departments worked together, and it really made for a very smooth opening this year. And I also have to acknowledge the police and fire departments, because the buses, routes went well, and the fire department did the inspections in all the buildings early this year. So we really had a very smooth opening. So I want to thank all of the town departments and helping to support the schools.
Very good. Good to hear.
Mr. Chairman.
Questions or comments?
Yeah, I just also wanted to add that when we did the master plan and when town meeting members voted to appropriate the money to do that work a couple years back, the town, the school department, both appointed and elected officials alike, assured people that the plan wasn't going to sit on a shelf and gather dust, and there were a whole number of reasons why the plan would be useful, and this is another example on how we get a return on that money. And I always point out things like that because going forward, when similar projects are proposed to town meeting, I think it's important for people to see a track record in town from the school department and municipal side alike, that when we talk about spending money on consulting services or technical assistance, it's not something we take lightly, but we usually have a good reason for doing it.
Can I just add another use for that plan? I'm glad you brought that up. We received notice from the Mass School Building Authority the first week in June that in a week they were going to be visiting every public school in Massachusetts, and we would have 2 days of visits in which we had to fill out at least 5 pages of questions on each of the buildings. And thankfully, we had that plan because that saved us. We got 99% of the information out of that plan, the other percent out of George's head, to complete the information so that we could get it done in a timely fashion. And we actually got an email of thanks from Catherine Craven because she said that they raved about how we were all prepared. We had the answers for everything, and all the material went in very quickly. That's going to be released statewide next week, so you'll be able to go on the MSBA website and see a needs assessment of every public school in Massachusetts. So, again, thank you to the town for agreeing to fund that master plan.
Thank you for all your hard work, too, in opening the schools. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, I was trying to capture some of the numbers, and if I could just ask you briefly to go over what the total cost of the windows are and what the percentages were, just so that I can get a sense of what they are.
The town appropriated $715,000 to replace the windows at Shawsheen. We are in line to, if we get this grant, to receive a reimbursement of somewhere between 45% and 49%.
Okay.
Is what they are predicting.
Thank you. I didn't capture that when you said it originally. And this question might be best for Mr. Hooper. I happened, as I was browsing the materials earlier, I noticed that the windows are original to the building, which is, I guess, 1970. I also noticed that the boilers are original to the building, if I'm not mistaken.
Boilers are, the burners are not.
Okay.
The
I don't know anything
burners,
about this stuff, so I just...
okay, the burners have been updated, but the boilers are original.
All right. Is that something, are there efficiencies we might gain at some point in the
We're
future?
continuously doing efficiencies in our buildings and upgrades, so we're
Next
through.
steps.
Yeah, exactly.
Understood. And one of the things I was interested in, I assume you put this in here, it said, we envision that the new windows will allow the school to reduce energy consumption by up to 40%. I know you don't have it in front of you, so I'm not asking for a specific quote. Do you have a general idea of what kind of a return on investment this might represent? And if not, that's certainly
I can
fine.
get that to you. I mean, I don't want to just be guessing at a
I
number.
understand. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, those are the kind of numbers. I think the efficiencies of the new materials, and that's what I was really trying to draw out here, was that the efficiencies of the new materials make these investments just such a sound investment, such a good idea. How can we not do it? Because ultimately it's going to pay for itself over some period of time. So that was really the statistic I was looking for. We don't need the actual number. We know it's going to. That's all. Thank you.
The only thing I'd like to say is that I'm very pleased, like the town manager said, that the both of you seem to be working very well. Both departments, the school committee, the superintendent, and George and his staff. I mean, I believe 2 years ago I went to a meeting when we first proposed the new high school and the renovation projects for all the schools, that what they needed. And I'm very pleased to see that not only are we getting grants, that we're moving along, furnishing the upgrades of all these schools, and like you said, even taking the asbestos out of the floors and the windows and the boilers now become, we're actually doing it. and not backpedaling like other towns are looking to say, how can we move on? So I think it's a great credit, not only to the members that I just talked about, the management and Board of Selectmen, as far as everybody working together and giving the town of Wilmington and its youth a better atmosphere. So I think, again, very pleased, very pleased.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, one comment. You know, people always talk about green, that's the magic word, and this is an example of that. And maybe we don't talk about it as much, but we do it. And I know that George could speak certainly to the energy efficiencies through the lighting program that we've been involved with Reading Municipal Light Department, where again we leverage funds and we're using other funds that become available to us through these green programs. And several of the auditoriums and gymnasiums have been done.
Auditoriums, even the one here, I don't know if you've seen it. Well, you have, but I don't know if the rest of you have.
Yeah, the lighting.
Energy efficient upgrades, correct, and working closely with Joanne and the school system. We've done a lot of the gymnasiums, cafeterias, and
So
it's
that stuff is ongoing, and
we do it all in-house, and that gives us a great return on our
and there's a
investments.
lot to be done. I mean, we you know, Joanne and George and I talk all the time about some of the things that need to be done, and we're going to look at some of the other windows and the other schools, and you know, this grant, if it goes forward, and we are very confident that it will. If it goes forward, it's going to give us a large chunk of money to get some other really important efficiencies underway in the schools. Unless there are other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Let's see if the chairperson of the school committee had any words to say.
I just say ditto. It's really, as we say at school committee, it's really gratifying to have that part of that partnership. It makes us all feel so good. We're all working together for one thing, and you're not out there by yourself, hanging there with ideas. We've got a whole group together with great ideas, and so thank you. We appreciate everything that the town does for the schools.
Very good.
The superintendent has provided the form of the motion that needs to be made, because as you know, in working with the MSBA, everything has to be just the way the MSBA wants it, and if they're going to pay half the freight, we might as well do it the way they want it. So I would like to suggest that the board adopt the following motion to resolve that, having convened in an open meeting on September 13th, 2010, the Board of Selectmen of Wilmington, in accordance with its charter, bylaws, and ordinances, votes to authorize the superintendent to submit to the Massachusetts School Building Authority the statement of interest dated August 19th, 2010 for the Shawshene School, located at 298 Shawshene Avenue in Wilmington, which describes and explains the following deficiencies in the priority category for which Wilmington may be invited to apply to the Massachusetts School Building Authority in the future. Replacement of windows at the Shawshene School to increase energy conservation and decrease energy-related cost. Existing windows are not energy efficient, leading to significant heat loss. Windows are not weather-tight, leading to leaks during wind-driven rain events. The thermal panel windows will reduce heating cost and will eliminate window leaks, and hereby further specifically acknowledges that by submitting this statement of interest, the Massachusetts School Building Authority in no way guarantees the acceptance or the approval of an application, the awarding of a grant, or any other funding commitment from the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or commits the Wilmington District to filing an application for funding with the Massachusetts School Building Authority.
Maybe motion as read by the town manager?
I make the motion as directed by the town manager for the language. Thank you.
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor? It's unanimous?
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Good luck.
I'll get your signature tomorrow.
Okay, you have the,
Yes.
okay.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. We can go ahead with this one, so it's not a... Hello, our 7:30 is with Christina Stewart, the library director, for library-sponsored community fair and discussion of recent programs and acquisitions through grant awards.
Good evening.
Ms. Stewart, how are you?
I'm fine. Before I begin, I'd like to acknowledge in the audience Suzanne Clarkin, library trustee, is here this evening. And I have two people with different hats. I have two people from the Friends Executive Board, Peggy Kane, who is vice president of the Friends Executive Board, and Robert Hayes, who is the bookstore next door manager. So I'm glad, and Joanne is always a big library supporter as well. Thank you. And George, oh God, can't do anything without public buildings. Well, I'm here really tonight to tell you about an upcoming event that the library is sponsoring. On September 25th, we are going to be hosting a community fair on Saturday at the Swain School parking lot, right now called the Municipal Parking Lot, from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We're going to have over 20 organizations participating in the fair. The goal of hosting this fair is to connect Wilmington residents with a network of service organizations in the area. We hope that residents can learn about the services that these organizations provide and also find out about volunteer opportunities that are available with these organizations. The community fund will be there, so they'll be accepting food donations, non-perishable items for the Wilmington Food Pantry, and local heroes will also be there and will be accepting donations for local heroes. And I'm sure if there's any special needs that local heroes has, Mr. Samaglia can let the audience know. And we're also going to have a pro shed, a paper shredding company, will be on site for the bulk shredding of paper items. This will give residents the opportunity to get their documents, especially their very sensitive documents, shredded at no cost. This is a chance to clean out files and dispose of these confidential documents with peace of mind. So we hope this shredding opportunity is going to bring people to the fair. We also will be celebrating Wilmington's 280th birthday. Wilmington was incorporated on September 25th, 1730, so the Shawshene Valley Technical High School students are going to be making a cake, and we'll be having lemonade and cake. So I would suggest, if you're coming, to get there early if you want to get some lemonade and cake. Please note that the fair will be canceled in case of rain. However, we will still keep the shredding truck on site for anyone who wants to bring their bulk paper items to get shredded. So we're hoping for a beautiful day, and that a lot of people will get together and find out about these organizations and learn how to discover ways to connect with others and give back to their community. So I just have some bookmarks to share with you.
Thank you very much.
And we also have many programs coming up in the fall. And this is another bookmark that highlights some of our adult programs. And I would just encourage everyone to go to the library's website for a full listing of all our upcoming programs at the library. One that has been successful for the past few years is our apple pie bake-off. I think some of you have been judges in the past, and so we'll be doing that again in October. That commemorates the historic Baldwin apple. That's one of the another annual event it's coming up soon. I also wanted to tell you about two grants that the library has recently received. We received a customer services grant. We awarded this grant in the amount of $10,000 from the Federal Institute of Museum and Library Services through the Library Services and Technology Act, administered by the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. I have to say that every time I refer to the grant. It's a federal money, but it's administered by the state library agency. This grant is earmarked for customer service and training for library staff, and the funds in this grant will also allow us to improve our marketing of library services with more professional-looking materials and aggressively let people know all the library has to offer. So some of the funds will be earmarked as well to do more of improving the website, doing more brochures, getting the word out. We also got a grant from the Praxair company. Praxair awarded the library a $12,500 grant towards the purchase of the library's first self-check machine. Praxair is located in Danbury, Connecticut, but they do have an office in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. And actually, we found out about this grant from Robert Hayes, who works at the Tewksbury Library, because Praxair also gave the Tewksbury Library its seed money for its first self-checkout. They tend to give grants to organizations in the towns where they're located, but we thought, hey, what the heck? we're neighbors, let's give it a try. And we have many Tewksbury residents, use our library through the reciprocal network that we have with other libraries. So we were very pleased to be awarded the grant, and the total cost of the machine, self-checkout machine, is about $25,000. But we'll be using state aid money to fund the balance of the cost, so no town money will need to be used. And self-checkout is, you're seeing it more and more in retail, but it's also a trend across this country in libraries. And what this will do is allow us to deploy library staff for more direct patron assistance, get them away from the repetitive tasks. And it also allows patrons the option of privacy when they check out their own materials. And we're expecting this unit to be installed this fall. And finally, we're coming up on the 5th anniversary, November 2005, of the loss of the new library proposal. So I just wanted to make this point because I just wanted to update you what we've been doing for the last 5 years. And I recalled in January 2006, after we lost the library, the town manager's budget message that year. He quoted Kenny Rogers. He said, "You have to know when to hold them and when to fold them." And he was right. The quest for the new library, it was on the back burner. We weren't going to see a new library for the foreseeable future, given the results of the vote. However, the library staff folded at that table, but we went to another table, so to speak. We started the makeover of the library. And it has really transformed the library. And with no yearly increase in the municipal budget, funding support has come from a variety of sources, including the town, Friends of the Library, grants, and state aid funds. The comments and feedback from patrons are very positive, and the results are very gratifying. We've had over a 20% increase in library circulation over the last 5 years. And, we're busier than we've ever been. I've been at the library for many years, and we continue to be, everyone said, we've never seen it this busy. There are days when every seat is occupied, every computer workstation. People are in line to check out books. So we're as busier than ever. Do we have enough space? No. The library is still, we have challenging space constraints. We have to make tough decisions. But, we really are going to do the best we can with what we have. And I do want to acknowledge the town manager for his support, the library trustees, and the staff who have been extremely creative with their ideas and their flexibility and their fortitude. The Friends of the Library, again, and a Public Buildings Department has been, again, George has just been, and Roger before him, incredibly helpful in this makeover. DPW, many volunteers, and on all the community who donated to the annual appeal that the Friends run every year, and which has been earmarked towards the makeover. So I just want to let everyone know, the Board of Selectmen and the residents, that we will continue to work with what we have and provide the best service possible because, this is what we feel Wilmington residents really deserve. So, thank you.
Thank you. I think we're fortunate, obviously, as a Board of Selectmen to have directors and school superintendents and department heads that are so passionate about what they do. And we're very fortunate to have you come in here like tonight and just give us a little brief update of what you've done over the past 5 years and some upcoming events. And I just personally want to thank you of all the work for you and your staff and your other groups that affiliate with you, because it's been an amazing 5 years. And a 20% increase is pretty impressive too. So I'd like to thank you for that too. Any other questions or comments?
No, I think it's well said.
I feel you make very good use of the space that you have. I and my family are frequent patrons, I suppose is the right word, of the library. The children love it, and I just want to compliment you. I know you have, there's only so much space that those walls afford you, and what you're accomplishing in that space is admirable. So thank you for all your efforts and everyone else that's making that happen as well.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from the audience?
Can I, one more thing, I'm sorry. On this community fair, we talked about the library, which is great, but the community fair is sort of...
And I know you're going to be there too?
Well, yeah, but I don't think, not on your list. We want to update the list.
Oh, we are not on that? Oh, I apologize.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That wasn't what I had to bring up. I really wanted to echo to the community that this is the first time that anything like this has gone on that I'm aware of. Is that true? Or?
Yes, and as we just recently completed our long-range plan, and when we do this, we really see where are we going with the library, and local information is something that people come to the library to look for. And we have the local history room, we have, the town crier microfilm, but trying to gather this information on local organizations and trying to connect people with the community is really a role that more libraries are playing in their communities. So we really would like to be a part of that, really for the library to connect with the community, but really to spearhead these kinds of events where we can really bring the community organizations together.
I sincerely applaud that. I look at the list of the organizations that are going to be there, and it's such a great opportunity for all these relatively small organizations that have limited bandwidth and volunteer services and not a lot of funding or whatever. So it's hard for them, just like everyone else, to try to do the marketing that they would like to do. And this is just a wonderful forum for these organizations to have, to be there and visible in the community. I hope the community really takes advantage of this and goes down and gets a sense of the kind of organizations we have in town. So thank you for creating that opportunity for all of them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you very much. Communications.
Mr. Chairman, you have a memorandum from me regarding New England Transrail. On August 23rd of this year, New England Transrail filed a status report with the Surface Transportation Board in response to a July 23rd, 2010 order from that board. You will recall that several years ago, NET filed a petition for exemption with the STB to allow it to construct and operate a rail-based solid waste transfer station and a truck-to-rail facility on a portion of the Olin Chemical site in Wilmington. With the assistance of Town Council, GeoInsight, town officials, and the public, Wilmington has, as you know, vigorously opposed that proposal and NET's petition. In 2007, the town and many other interested parties briefed and argued the legal issue of federal preemption for rail-based solid waste permitting. In July of that year, STB issued a decision that would have allowed certain aspects of the proposal, including some solid waste handling activities, to undergo exclusive review by the STB. Before conducting an environmental review, STB required NET to file additional materials on whether rail activities would be appropriate and necessary for operations at the Olin site. Wilmington and other parties responded to NET's supplemental materials. Among other concerns raised by the town were the status of the ongoing environmental investigation of the Olin site and the undocumented seismic loads that rail operations would impose on an unstable Superfund site. STB did not act on the 2007 filings, however, because the controversy surrounding the NET filings led Congress to pass the Clean Railroads Act of 2008, as well as to have STB adopt regulations under that act. The Clean Railroads Act limited the scope of STB's exclusive jurisdiction, and STB's regulations established a new scheme for exemption of rail-based solid waste facilities. Under this new scheme, NET would have to apply for and obtain a land use exemption in order to process solid waste as part of a rail facility. NET has not filed for a land use exemption. In the July 23rd decision, STB stated that certain of the truck-to-rail operations that NET has proposed fall outside of the of the Clean Railroads Act and do not require a land use exemption. STB required NET to file a report on the status of the environmental investigation and remediation of the Olin site that is being conducted under EPA supervision, relative to NET's intentions to proceed with its proposed facility, and on whether the work that NET still proposes falls outside of the Clean Railroads Act. In the August 23rd status report this past month, NET comments on the status of the environmental work, states that it intends to proceed with the truck-to-rail facility initially without the processing of municipal solid waste, asks the STB to further review and act on its petition, and claims a right to later file for a land use exemption for solid waste processing. NET asked STB to resume consideration and conduct an environmental review of its current proposal. That proposal apparently is to receive, pack, or process and load onto rail cars a wide variety of liquid and solid commodities and materials, which may include biomass, dry goods, lumber, steel, wood chips, soil, and possibly hazardous materials that are permitted by Department of Transportation regulations. NET describes and attaches its own summary of EPA's investigation, including the partially completed sampling and testing of soil, groundwater, and surface water, the remedial investigation, and feasibility study and preliminary findings. We are advised, and I wrote this on September 7th, that EPA has reviewed NET's two-page summary of the environmental investigation and remediation and may comment on it directly to STB. In fact, as the board knows, I provided you with a copy of those comments, which came after the authorship of this memorandum. I can tell you that we are continuing to consult with Town Council concerning these matters and any next steps to be taken by the town. With regard to EPA's comments, they obviously take issue with some of what NET has indicated. They've written to discuss EPA's site investigation, and they say that while the status update from NET accurately describes the progress to date of EPA's site investigation, there are conclusions drawn which are premature and may not be supported by the facts as known to EPA. So that certainly is very specific. And so EPA goes on to indicate that based on Olin's verbal representation of the results, data gaps remain which require further characterization of certain soil areas. They say that the conclusions drawn in NET's status report are premature because data gaps remain, quantitative risk assessments have yet to be performed, and other steps necessary to issue any of the required reports are still pending. So essentially, the EPA repeats its request that there be an environmental impact statement undertaken and a complete environmental assessment in light of the extensive excavations that are proposed and the known environmental issues at the site. EPA is asking that the board defer any environmental analysis being requested by the NET at this time until all of that work is being done. This continues the saga of NET and STB, which started back in 2003. I think when then Town Council Newhouse said those prophetic words that this was a project on steroids.
40B.
40B on
Legislation is like
steroids.
40B
Yeah.
on steroids. Yeah.
And fortunately, you know, we have been able to keep this in check, and we'll continue to do that. I can tell you that right now, as we speak, Town Council is working with GeoInsight to put together comments on behalf of the town. I don't expect anything to happen imminently. This is still a long process, but and it's taken over 2 years since the Clean Railroads Act for even anything to happen, and that only happened, as I read it, at the prompting of STB. NET wasn't sending anything in, but STB was saying, it's been a couple of years, what are you doing? They told them what they were doing, gave their own interpretation of the environmental situation, which clearly is an error, and it's good that EPA, who are working on our behalf, certainly have notified them of the premature nature of any of NET's conclusions. So I'll keep the board informed, and if at some point in the future you would like to have Attorney Deutsch or Mike Webster, who is handling this now. John Gilbert is no longer with the firm. He had handled it before, but Mike Webster, who's handling it on behalf of Geo Insight in the town, and even Jim DiLorenzo from EPA, we can certainly arrange that.
If I may, to what extent, where town council is working live on some of these issues, to what extent is it appropriate to discuss timelines? We talked about, or you mentioned and read the words that NET is a little premature in their thinking that they can submit some of these proposals. But I saw some quotes on timelines and other things, and I guess I'm concerned about putting dates out into the public mindset and creating a perception to NET that we're a year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, or any number of years away from them having a viable opportunity to submit applications again. And has town council, or does town council have any thoughts or opinions on keeping some of that stuff? Or is it appropriate to keep
Well,
that
I think anything that we've mentioned today is public record, is related to the public record. But I think your comments are well said, and I think that certainly the town does not want to play its hand publicly at this point. Anything that we've talked about at this point is, I think, fair game and is a matter of public record, and in fact has been made available to anybody, any of the interested parties who have logged on to the website or to the with STB, asking them to keep them abreast of what's happening.
But they're privy to these same communications that you've just read?
They are.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
Mr. Chairman, the board has a letter from Mark Kavanaugh, the Executive Director of the Massachusetts State Lottery Commission, regarding a Keno to Go offering to Main Street Liquors located at 335 Main Street, Unit 1. The commission offers existing non-pouring agents a product called Keno to Go, which is a transaction identical to the already existing online games such as Megabucks and Mass Cash. The lottery does not provide agents with Keno monitors as part of this program, but in accordance with Mass General Law, you are notified that there are existing agencies in the community, namely Main Street Liquors, which qualifies to apply for one of these Keno to Go licenses. If you object to Main Street Liquors selling Keno to Go, you must do so in writing within 21 days of receipt of the letter. Again, there's no monitors involved. It's because it's a non-pouring establishment. They would just pick up the Keno tabs, I guess they are, the same way they would purchase other programs such as Megabucks. I did contact the chief of police. They reviewed the notification that was presented and recommends approval of the request. They have no objection. So if the board wants to object, I certainly can write a letter on their behalf. If the board does not want to object, then
There's no action.
there's no action that needs to be taken.
Any questions or comments on that?
The board has a copy of the letter from Margaret Hurley, the Assistant Attorney General, that was sent to Town Clerk Sharon George regarding the approval by the Office of the Attorney General of the zoning and general bylaws that were voted at the annual town meeting of May 1st, 2010. They list the bylaws by warrant article, and for some reason, one of the articles, there were two articles actually that were not included. Actually, one article that was not included, and that was article number 23. For some reason, that was not listed, and we can check on that to see if that was just a clerical error. But what they're telling us is that all of the warrant articles that were submitted for review have been approved. Mr. Chairman, in keeping with the town's longstanding commitment to improving its parks and playgrounds, I am pleased to announce that work will commence this month on the construction of a new playground at the Robert P. Palmer Park located behind Town Hall. Funding for this project in the amount of $40,000 will come from Recreation Department program fees that are generated by the town's successful travel and recreation offerings. The playground area has been designed in such a way to enable future expansion. As such, the town welcomes private contributions to fund future play area expansion at this location. And toward that end, the town has already received a generous contribution from the Wilmington Moms Club. We anticipate that DPW forces will begin preparation work at the site by the end of this week. Initial work will include the removal of 4 pine trees, followed by a rough grade of the 36-foot by 108-foot play area. We anticipate the delivery and installation of the playground equipment during either the first or second week of October. Following assembly of the new equipment, DPW staff will appropriately fence and landscape the area. The playground safety surfacing will consist of engineered wood fiber. I've provided for you a listing of the play equipment as well as a layout and depiction of such equipment. We will incorporate into the play area 2 pieces of the existing playground equipment, specifically the freestanding wave zip slide and the curved balance beam. All of the other existing equipment will be removed. We have on the wall a copy of the layout, which I believe our good friend Dawn Laird from WCTV is focusing in on right now. I've also provided WCTV, the press, as well as the members of the Board of Selectmen, again, a copy, a smaller version of what's on the wall, but also a copy of the playground in terms of the actual equipment. I would note that's not the color of the equipment. The equipment color will be made to blend into the area, the woods, and the town hall, as we try to do at all of the different playgrounds. But there are going to be a number of various equipment available, various slides and climbing walls and different contraptions of one kind or another. Obviously, several swings, including the swings for tots as well. And so that's been made available.
Very good.
We think, weather permitting, those trees come down. We have a crane coming in here on the 17th, this Friday, and then the stumps and all will be removed. And then the area will be graded. And hopefully, weather permitting, we'll be able to get the playground installed early enough in October so we can get some use out of it this year. And again, no public funds are paying for this playground. The good work of the Recreation Commission and the people who support those programs, particularly the travel programs. We're running a trip to the Greek Isles that has already garnered about 80 folks. And one of the things that I did a long time ago when we got here was change the way we do business on trips, where we go out to bid, get a low bid, and also insist that the tour companies provide something back to the town. So in this case, for example, the Greek Isles trip, we will get the equivalent of 1 free trip. We don't take the free trip, we take the dollars involved for every 15 passengers. So already from that, when you're talking a couple of $1,000s, you're already talking about $10,000 or $12,000 just coming in on that trip, and we've only just started to advertise that. So it's these programs that have been so successful that have enabled us to do some of these things, and that's what's going to help here. You have correspondence from the Bureau of Justice Assistance. The Office of Justice Programs read Town of Wilmington participation in the nationwide prescription drug take-back day. This is something that the federal government is getting involved with on September 25th throughout the country from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. A number of police departments have decided to get involved in this program, including our own, in conjunction specifically with the Board of Health and with the Department of Elderly Services. The police will partner with the Drug Enforcement Agency to take back prescription drugs that are no longer needed by individuals. The DEA, the Drug Enforcement Administration, will be on hand, again, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the Public Safety Building to collect potentially dangerous, expired, unused, and unwanted prescription drugs in the forms of tablets, capsules, and other solid dosage forms. We must tell you that items such as syringes, injectable drugs, or intravenous solutions are not to be collected. So what we're looking for really are pills, any tablets, any capsules, any solid dosage forms of medication that you no longer need and you want to find a way to rid yourself of them, to give you an opportunity to go through those cabinets, just to bring them down. The service is free. It's totally anonymous, so nobody knows what pills you might have used in the past. And it really indicates, well, I shouldn't say indicates, but the study indicates that many abused prescription drugs are obtained from family and friends, and so it's best to not, to take away that kind of unwarranted incentive and to rid yourself of those drugs if you can from your household medicine cabinets. Additionally, many Americans don't know how to properly dispose of their unused medicine, often flushing them down the toilet or throwing them away, and both of those methods present potential safety and health hazards. So the service is free. Residents are invited to bring their prescription drugs down on September 25th, maybe right before or after you go to the community fair.
That's right.
Preferably before. May I ask, you didn't specify it, and it doesn't say here, maybe you don't know. You mentioned pills or solid form medicines. What about, I'm wondering, liquid form that's non-injectable, like syrups or I'm thinking about liquid codeine or something to that effect. I wonder if that is part of their take-back.
I don't believe it is.
Okay.
But if anybody wants to check on any items or needs any assistance with regard to syringes or the items just mentioned by Selectman Shampoo, I would recommend they contact the Board of Health nurse at the town hall. It's my understanding that it's only solids and not liquids that are being collected, but the Board of Health nurse will have the answer.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Again, just a memorandum from the MMA regarding the legislative breakfast meetings, and you are reminded that there's still time to attend one of the legislative breakfast meetings. The one closest in our area is set for October 1st in Tewksbury. We also received notice from Secretary Galvin in his capacity as chairman of the Massachusetts Historical Commission that the Butters Avery House, which is known here as the Butters Farm, was accepted by the National Park Service for listing in the National Register of Historic Places, and that the property has in fact been listed, and we provided for you a copy of the certificate that registers the house. We have correspondence from Jane Lavoisier of Verizon, read the FiOS video notice, and they just are notifying all of their customers of changes to their service, and it's changes that will mean discontinuation of certain programming on the Urge digital music channels. And that information has been sent to all of the subscribers for FiOS. Mr. Chairman, the board is being asked to consider signing a memorandum of understanding between the town of Wilmington and the town of North Reading regarding the Route 62 Salem Street Culvert Program. You will recall that a few meetings back, Mr. Onosite was here. We had certain questions about the proposal from North Reading, and so we submitted to them the draft that we would accept, and pursuant to that, they agreed and have provided us with a copy of a signed memorandum of agreement by the Board of Selectmen in North Reading. Town Council from Wilmington has reviewed it. It is frankly a good project which will not cost the town of Wilmington anything. North Reading is agreeing to manage the project, to do the public bidding and construction, to develop and implement a traffic management plan, all in consultation certainly with the town of Wilmington, and in this case to provide the local share of costs for the project. So the cost of the project, some of which will be borne by the state, the rest of which will be borne by the town of North Reading. And with your approval, we can go ahead. The estimated project cost is $750,000, and the local share is $270,000. And again, that funding will come exclusively from the town of North Reading. The project itself will serve to mitigate flooding in both towns, most notably North Reading, but certainly in both communities. That Martins Pond area affects about 650 residents in North Reading who are affected by flooding and at times receive significant flood damage. We've received some damage at the water department facility, which we've been able to recover funding from FEMA to take care of that problem. But certainly this project will help to ensure that those kinds of issues don't happen in the future. So I think it's a good deal. It includes everything that we wanted, everything that the Board of Selectmen wanted when Mr. Onosite was here, and it meets the approval of council. So I would recommend that the board adopt a motion to sign the memorandum of understanding.
Okay, this does, any questions, comments, or a motion?
I would move that we sign and approve the memorandum of understanding. Is that what we're calling it?
Yes.
The memorandum of understanding with North Reading for the project that the town manager just described for the Route 62 Martins Pond culvert.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor? Unanimous?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The board is being asked to consider signing access lease and agreements for Olin Corporation, allowing for the conduct of groundwater monitoring and sampling activities in compliance with field work that has been authorized by the United States Environmental Protection Agency. The attached agreements, again, would enable Olin to access town-owned premises to conduct these sampling activities. The document that we would ask you to execute have been prepared in consultation with Town Council's office and with our environmental consultant, Geo Insight. In this case, this is in areas on Jewel Drive, Chestnut Street, and Woburn Street, and it really indemnifies the town more than anything else, and it's something that you've signed off on in the past. So I'd recommend the board approve the signing of these access lease and agreements.
Questions, comments, motion?
Move that the board sign the access lease and agreements as outlined by the manager.
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor? Unanimous?
you. There are 6 places for each of your signatures as designated. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, there is a vacancy on the Cable TV Advisory Task Force, and although the task force is not active at this time, they're primarily active when we're going through a license renewal process. It has been customary that the executive director of WCTV serve as a member. They have a new executive director, as you know, and although there's no pressing business, it would be good to, in the event that some issues come up, it would be good to supplement the committee with the executive director of WCTV. So I would recommend that the board consider appointing Sandra Curtin, who is that new executive director, as a member of the Cable TV Advisory Task Force.
Questions, comments, or a motion?
I would move that we approve Sandra Curtin, the executive director, as a member of the Cable, is it the Cable Commission?
TV Advisory Task Force.
Yes.
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor? Unanimous?
That concludes the regular business, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, public comments? Seeing none? New business committee reports?
Just a quick note, as summer draws to a close here, I noticed that we didn't have some of the issues that we had at Silver Lake with runoff and having to close down the beach and things like that, and I would imagine it has at least a little something to do with the improvements that we made over there with grant monies and some of the taxpayers' money that was appropriated. So just wanted to make note of that. That's certainly a positive when you make improvements like that and they seem to work. So
I appreciate you mentioning that, Mike, because this year, as you have read, there have been so many beach closings. We didn't have one beach closing, and we do routine sampling. It's conducted by the Board of Health. There was never a necessity to close Silver Lake. And I think it's attributed exactly as to what you're saying, the storm management runoff program that was done down there a few years ago. You know, knock on wood, I guess, but it seems certainly to have a great impact on our ability to keep the lake open, particularly during a very difficult and hot summer.
true.
Okay? All set?
I have a general, a couple questions Well, I'll start real positive here. I want to thank Mr. Kara and the team that he's working with for what's going to happen at Palmer Park here. I'm excited about it, and as many residents know, it was an area of concern of mine, or a desire that I had. So delighted to see that project making some forward progress. So thank you, Mr. Kara, for Palmer Park activities. I wanted to ask, because I haven't, a few residents came to me not too long ago and asked, before they scheduled their children for inoculations, they wondered if the town was going to be running flu clinics again this year. Is that on our radar screen?
Yes. As a matter of fact, I met today, I'm glad you mentioned that, I met today with the director of the Board of Health, Shelley Newhouse, and we spoke about the flu clinics, and we're in contact with Joanne Benton about whether or not they wanted to again go and conduct clinics at the schools, and the answer to that is yes. So we will be conducting, we're not going to announce anything until we get the flu vaccine, but as we did last year, we will be conducting flu clinics in the schools for children 5 years and older. And we will also be conducting townwide flu clinics on a Saturday to be determined, and in addition, we will also do some senior clinics as well. As soon as we get the vaccines, we will be doing that. So if people are interested, the only thing we can't tell them is when. I know there are locations that already have the vaccine, and obviously if they want to take advantage of it early. I hesitate to even hazard a guess as to when we're going to get the vaccine. You know, I could find out tomorrow that it's coming in 2 weeks, or 2 months. But yes, the answer is yes, we will be doing that.
That's what I was interested in hearing. On occasion, we have the hazardous materials pickups, where you can bring your, I don't know, TV or paint cans or other, hazard. Is that, I haven't looked, I probably ought to have, but someone asked me if we had one of those on the radar screen, and I said, I'll ask the manager, and I wrote it down because I didn't want to forget. Do you know if we have that scheduled again anytime soon?
Well, we do have the hazardous materials pickup. It's not a pickup, but the drop-off in May. It's typically scheduled the second Saturday in May. Is that right, Beverly? It's the second.
It's just a once-a-year thing?
It's once a year.
All right, okay.
But when you mention TVs, of course, that's done by coming down to the town hall and getting a tag, and you can put that out at the collection, $10 for any kind of a monitor. The other materials, from your paint cans and things like that, that's free of charge, but we only do that once a year. Anybody interested in getting rid of some of that stuff now, however, can contact the DPW, and they can direct you as to where you can do that.
Thank you.
Is that it, Mike?
Yes, thank you.
I'd just like to mention how I personally enjoy when you have a department head or a director come in, and whether it's for a specific project or for any other specific thing that they're doing in their department. But I always enjoy when Tina comes in from the library and all the other department heads that we've had over the past year or so, or even longer. But I hope you enjoy it at home too, that just to get updates of what's going on in town from these very, very competent and passionate people. Did you have something?
I can do the important dates. I do want to mention two items that, one is that the chairman and I were at the public safety building with the police chief and other officers to receive or to join with Chief Michael Bagonis, who received an employer award today from the National Guard for the work that we do in conjunction with those members of town government to participate in the military. Specifically, in order to get this, you need to be recommended by an individual employee who acknowledges the support of a particular department, in this case, the police department. And also in this case, it's Dan Dion, who's a police officer who has been deployed overseas, and he wrote to this organization through the National Guard to effectively compliment the police chief for his support of employees, and that was certainly very nice. The other thing was last week, we received a nice donation out here, Lou, as you know, a flagpole, and a beautiful flagpole from the Della Russo Funeral Home. And now for all of the athletic events that go on out here, specifically the football and games from the high school, the Little League games, and also the Pop Warner games, we now have a flag out on the field. Obviously, there's a flag here at Town Hall, but you really can't see it when you're out in the football field. So that's also a nice addition, and we're grateful for that very generous donation.
Right, it's a beautiful flagpole. Yes, thank you for reminding me of that. Important dates.
In terms of important dates, tomorrow, September 14th, Tuesday, remind residents the state primary election. Polls open at 7 a.m., they close at 8 p.m. Again, you vote precincts 1 and 2 at the Boutwell School, precincts 3 and 4 at the Wildwood School, and precincts 5 and 6 here at Town Hall. The next meeting of the Tri-Town Planning Board and Task Force meeting will be September 22nd at the Tewksbury Senior Center at 175 Chandler Street. This is at 7 p.m. On September 25th, the annual town cleanup. Meet at the Whitfield School if you're interested, from 8 p.m. to 1 p.m. The Conservation Commission invites all to participate. If you have hip boots, it's suggested that you may want to bring them. We will provide work gloves as well as bags to pick up the debris. Again, The time is 8 a.m., it'll go till 1 p.m., and there is a rain date the following week. You should meet at the Whitfield School, 342 Middlesex Avenue. If you require additional information, you can contact the Planning and Conservation Department, and we certainly appreciate all that everybody does who participates in that program. Also note that the Elderly Services Department will be conducting their Elderly Services Harvest Breakfast at the Basalt Senior Center from 9 a.m. To 11 a.m. to support the Wilmington High School scholarship program. Space is limited. If you're interested, you can get tickets through the Senior Center. On that day, again, the community fair, the municipal parking lot on Middlesex Avenue from 10 to 1 p.m., as well as the prescription drug take-back day at the Public Safety Building. So September 25th, there's something for everyone. So the next day, the Wilmington 6th Annual Half Marathon and 5K Run or Walk is going to take place. It's presented this year by the Wilmington Chamber of Commerce. They have taken over this program, and I know we'll do a very good job. The race itself begins at 10 o'clock in the morning. Registration begins as early as 8 a.m. At 10 Waltham Street, right near the WCTV headquarters off Middlesex Avenue in North Wilmington. Again, you can participate either through running the half marathon or through participating in the 5K run or walk, which is a little over 3 miles. There's also going to be a lot of activities that will be going on all day, activities for families, so you're welcome to join the program, which I believe will go from about 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. All of the proceeds will benefit scholarships for Wilmington High School students. If you're interested, you can contact the Chamber. You can email them at wilmingtonchamber@verizon.net. You can claim any of these application forms if you're so inclined to run and register here at the town hall or other places throughout town. And if you have any questions or need any direction, you certainly can call my office as well, and they'll provide you with the appropriate information. And the board next meets on September 27th.
Very good, thank you. I entertain a motion to go to executive session for the purpose of discussing collective bargaining and contract negotiations with non-union personnel, not to return to open session. So moved.
Second?
Voice count?
Yes.
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 Unanimous. Thank you.